Paul Pachter, CEO of Long Island Cares, the Harry Chapin Food Bank, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking Bread from Long Island Cares. I couldn't be more excited about this particular episode of Breaking Bread because I have the pleasure of welcoming New York State Assemblywoman Michaelle Solages to Breaking Bread, to Long Island Cares. So it is really great to see you.
Oh, and thank you for the opportunity. This is wonderful.
Pleasure. Let's just start and get this out of the way. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
At a time in an election day when more than 140 million people have voted, where there has been some changes, you have just, again, been reelected with a very, very large margin. I look at the numbers,
Yes.
and I think it just speaks to who you are and what you've been able to accomplish during your years in the Assembly, and having the respect and the trust of your constituents in your district. So we're looking forward to the next 2 years of working with you.
It's very exciting, and I appreciate the people of the community that believe in my vision and believe that, you know, this is not just a job for me. This is a lifestyle. This is something that I love doing every day. Every day I wake up and I say, what can I do more for my neighbors, my friends?
Well, that has played out true to as you're saying it, because if we go back to the middle of March, here we are in New York State with the highest COVID-19 pandemic numbers in the country, if not the world, with people being quarantined at home, being told to self-isolate, businesses closing, in order for us to get this under control. And I don't think there's anyone in the world that won't recognize the job that our governor has done to get the numbers in New York down. But during the height of this pandemic, at the very early stages, you make a decision that you need to do something for your constituents who are struggling because you know your district well. And you reach out to Long Island Cares, and what happens?
We knew that food insecurity was an issue before COVID-19. A few days after the official notice of lockdown came, I knew that people needed access to good, nutritious food because they were losing their position, their jobs. They were struggling. Kids were not in school, so they didn't have access to that good, nutritious food. So I said, I needed help. And the first person I called was Long Island Cares, because I know that your institution really is out there on the ground helping and assisting people all throughout Long Island. And that was the first phone call I made through the pandemic, really. And it was the best call I made because you were there. Long Island Cares was there to help us.
Well, you put us in touch with the Valley Stream Presbyterian Church in your district. And we met the church elders and the pastors, and I think within 10 minutes we had a plan that we could open up a pop-up food distribution center at the church, open it on Saturdays to begin with, see how the need grows, and to be honest with you, just the response from the church, the parishioners, and the response from your staff, your office, and the community at large, just all converged and came together. And here we are, 8 months into this, and we're still at the Valley Stream Presbyterian Church on Saturdays.
It's still going strong. Yeah, I mean, we have a strong group of volunteers who come and assist individuals, and then we have people who come and they get that emergency food box, that lifeline that helps them get that food that they need, so that they don't have to choose between rent or food or other choices. So it's been a very humbling experience throughout this pandemic, but it's great that we were able to help people in need.
And I think the other thing is it's just so wonderful to watch the church in action. That, there was nothing they wouldn't consider doing to make sure that people got the support. You've been, as a state legislator, you've been in this now for 8 months with the rest of your colleagues up in Albany. What do you see from your vantage point, your district? What is driving these numbers of people. I mean, if you look at what's happening right now, and we discussed this on another program, since March up through now, over 128,000 people have turned to Long Island Cares for emergency food assistance. And this is an unduplicated number of people that have never gone for help. If you factor in our satellite locations, and you add to that another 66,000 people. So combined, in the last 8 months, 195,000 people on Long Island, a region considered to be one of the more affluent in the country, are turning to a food bank for emergency food. You hear from your constituents every day, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
What do you see is driving this need?
It's the choices that people have to make. Businesses are closing, businesses are furloughing individuals, and they don't have access to that money to afford food. I live in a community particularly where there's a food desert. In Elmont, we don't have a supermarket. So, you know, it used to be that you can go to the local bodega or the local corner store and be able to get, you know, some food, but unfortunately those stores are now closing. So, you know, what drives the need? I think it's people looking for access to food so that they don't have to, you know, cut something else in their budget. And it's also the people there. I think we've made it, Long Island Cares and the volunteers have made it a loving environment. It's not like a drive-through where, you know, you put it in the trunk and they drive away and you don't see them ever again. It's actually an environment where you come in. We have people who donate books. We had 1 week people donated new bras, you know, other items. We make it a loving environment. We don't make it something that it's something, you know, like taboo. It's you're here for help. We're here to help you.
It's really been a community effort because I've been there when people have donated additional supplies to give out. I mean, there was one day I was there and they were giving out bagels because one of the local bagel stores made the donation. You know, I don't know how many people envisioned what this pandemic would do to the region, especially in relation to employment. But, you know, you see what we see. Every time a Pier 1 closes, or a Dave & Buster closes, or a Modell's closes, or a restaurant closes, it creates a need and a panic in the community. And, you know, we talk to a lot of people at the 18 locations where we're distributing food, and we're still getting calls today. I mean, less than we got previously, and every call starts off the same. I was just furloughed, or I lost my job. And I know we're talking about rebounding slowly, but it just seems to me, and I'm curious to get your take on it, every time we talk about people going back to work, more people are getting laid off. So it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
And also to consider the factor that many kids are now doing distance learning, or schools have to quarantine, and so parents are going to have to choose between educating their children or going to work. And it's a tough decision. I know, unfortunately, many women who have decided to leave the workforce because they want to ensure that their child was getting quality education at home. Because whether their family is immunocompromised or they just want to be safe in this time of a pandemic. So, and that's driving the need as well. You know, parents have to be home to watch their children.
Absolutely.
Daycares are closing. Another big issue is that childcare is, a lot of these childcare are businesses, and they have to reduce their capacity. And they don't have enough slots for families. And families have to actually pay those slots. So it's becoming there's many facets of this issue of COVID-19. But I know that at least we're trying to cover the food aspect of it.
No, and that's important. Because if you look at the billions that have been invested to respond to COVID, through the CARES Act, through the HEROES Act, all of them have contained a provision for food insecurity. You know, I've been doing this now for 13 years. I've never seen this increasing level of understanding and recognition of food banks and what they do and what essential services we provide. You know, you talk about the need for child care and, you know, young families with children, and the kids are home now because of the schools being closed. One of the first things we did going back to March 13th was immediately reduce our work hours. We reduced it by 5 hours a week so that staff, especially those with young children, could spend more time at home with them, knowing that, this is going to disrupt people's lives. What do we do in New York State? I mean, you're looking at what's going on throughout the country. Where, from your perspective, how did we get to politicize wearing a face mask?
I think we were in a tumultuous time in politics, and we forget that we're human beings sometimes. We get lost in the sometimes policy of things. I think things are getting better now. I see that people are more relaxed, especially after this election. But we can't forget we're going to go into a new budget cycle next year, and we're going to have struggles here in New York State.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the ways that we can really support our communities is ensuring that our nonprofits are given some heavy support. We're talking about budget cuts, but we can't be cutting from the bottom. We can't be cutting support groups. We need to support from the bottom. And I think one way that we can do that is by getting everyone together, support, whether, if you have extra dollar, you support those nonprofits, those food banks, but also ensuring that when we make policy, we support those individuals, those industries, those nonprofits.
From a policy standpoint in relation to food insecurity, which, I think what people are seeing now, there's always been food insecurity.
Correct. Yeah.
But when you start to talk about 128,000 more people coming for the very first time, people start to take notice, because these are not people who historically visit a food pantry. These are people who donate to food pantries.
Right,
and now they're on the receiving end. The governor has invested a total of $35 million in the last 8 months to deal with the issue of food insecurity through his Nourish New York initiative, which was the first $25 million. Now there's another $10 million, second round of Nourish New York. That was a great program. It served dual purposes. Number one, it put some more money into the hands of New York State farmers. And then, of course, it made food available to the food banks.
I have to thank you, because you were one of the people who reached out to legislators like myself and who said that we have a problem with our food system here in New York State. And from there, we had hearings. And we actually engaged the executive, saying that, we have farmers upstate dumping milk. The fishermen are not getting their product out. What can we do to bring all this together? And that started from a conversation we had when you came and visited the food distribution. So thanks to you. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That is an outstanding way to end this interview. Look, you're going back to Albany soon.
Yes.
Couple of changes up there. I don't think it's going to mean a lot, as to where the legislators can go. We're looking forward to working with you in the next session. There's a couple of proposals right now in New York State that we're looking at that are coming out of the Assembly, and looking at food insecurity and other needs. So I hope that sometime in the future we can have you back and spend more than 15 minutes together talking.
Nutrition is such a vital component of life.
It is. Really. And people, you're not supposed to take food for granted.
Exactly.
And if you do, what happens when you really need it? One thing we're hearing now, without the pandemic, there's always people questioning, how could there be that many people who need to go to a pantry? Exactly. Now nobody's questioning it. No. People see what's going on.
The hidden hunger is gone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now people see it.
Yeah. Assemblywoman Solages, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you like what you see, you have to like what you see, because we're so lucky on Long Island to have her. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel until you see Breaking Bread. And until the next time, this is Paule Pachter, CEO of Long Island Care, saying thank you, and keep giving us your support, because we really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.